The day my children finally came back to me. I still remember the sound of that morning. It was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels heavy, as if the walls are holding their breath with you. I was sitting in my old wooden chair, the one near the window. The sunlight was soft, spreading across the floor like a thin blanket. I held my cup of tea with both hands because they've grown a little shaky now. I looked outside, watching the empty street, thinking about the days when that street used to echo with the laughter of my children. It had been years since they had visited, years since they had called, years since anyone had said, "Amma, how are you?" with real warmth. People say time heals everything, but silence does something else. Silence teaches you how to live with pain without showing it. That morning, as I sipped my tea, a strange feeling filled my heart. Something warm, something familiar. It was like a whisper inside me saying, "Something is coming today." I did not know what. I did not know who, but I felt it. Maybe because it was the same date, the same day their father passed away many years ago, the same day everything changed in our house, the same day my children slowly drifted away from me, step by step, choice by choice, until I became just a memory in their busy lives. I closed my eyes for a moment and breathed deeply. The house smelled like old books and tea leaves, like loneliness wrapped in dust. I thought of all the years I spent waiting, sometimes angry, sometimes hopeful, sometimes tired, but never hateful. A mother's heart never truly hates. It just waits and waits and waits. I didn't know that on this quiet morning, the waiting was finally going to end, because just as I placed my empty cup on the table, I heard a sound I had forgotten. A knock. Soft, hesitant, unsure. My heart stopped for a second. Who could it be at this hour? The neighbors never visited. The postmen came only on Fridays, and I wasn't expecting anyone. I stood up slowly, holding the side of the chair for support. My feet felt heavy. My breath felt light. Another knock, a little louder this time, and something inside me whispered again, "Open the door. Your story is about to change." I walked to the door, each step filled with memories. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. And when I finally opened it, my whole world shifted. Because standing outside, after all these years, were my children. When I opened the door and saw them standing there, I felt something move inside my chest, something I thought had died long ago. My 3 children stood in front of me like strangers who knew my name but had forgotten how to say it. For a moment, no one spoke. They just stood there, older, tired, carrying lines on their faces that were not there the last time I saw them. My eldest son, Amir, looked like he had not slept in days. His shoulders were heavy, not from work, but from life. My second son, Faraz, stood silently behind him, his eyes looking everywhere except at me. And my daughter, the youngest, my sweet Sana, she looked the most broken. She held her own hands tightly, as if stopping them from shaking. I wanted to speak. I wanted to say their names. I wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but my voice refused to come out. It was Amir who spoke first. "Ami, can we come in?" His voice was soft, almost scared, as if he feared I might say no. But how could I ever do that? A mother's heart has no locked doors. I stepped aside and nodded, letting them enter.
They walked in slowly, looking around the house as if they were walking into their childhood again. Everything was the same: the old sofa, the faded curtains, the clock their father bought on our first wedding anniversary. But something else hung in the air: guilt, regret, an emptiness too deep to name. I closed the door behind them and turned around. They were all standing in the middle of the living room like they didn't know where to sit, as if they didn't know if they were allowed. I pointed to the sofa. "Sit,
Son,
sit." They obeyed quietly. I took my seat on the wooden chair opposite them. My hands were resting in my lap, and I could feel the trembling again. Years of loneliness had made me strong, but not strong enough for this moment. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The silence was long, but heavy with words that wanted to be said. It was Faraz who broke it this time.
Mom,
We should have come earlier." His voice cracked halfway through, and he quickly looked down. I watched him, remembering the little boy who used to follow me around the house, pulling my dupatta for attention. Sana wiped her eyes.
Mom,
We didn't treat you well." Her words hit me like a wave, not because they hurt, but because I had waited so long to hear them. I smiled weakly. "It's okay.
son,
You are here now." Amir looked up at me with eyes full of pain. "No,
Mom,
it's not okay. We left you alone for all these years. We didn't even check if you were eating properly, or if you were sick, or if you needed anything." He paused and breathed deeply. "After Abba passed away, we all drifted away, and we let you drift alone." His voice was steady, but I could feel the storm inside him. I looked at them, one by one, my children, my blood, my whole life. Once, this house used to be filled with their laughter, their fights, their chatter. I remember mornings when they would run around searching for socks, school bags, and homework. I remember evenings when we all sat together for dinner, sharing stories about school, friends, and life. I remember the nights when I tucked them into bed, kissed their foreheads, and whispered dua for them. Those memories still lived inside me, even after they had forgotten them. I took a deep breath and decided to speak. My voice was soft and steady. "Beta, life changes. People grow up. Responsibilities grow. Mistakes happen. What matters is that you came back. A mother's heart only sees that." But they didn't look relieved. They looked even more guilty. Sana leaned forward. "Ami, we didn't come just to say sorry." My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know whether to feel afraid or hopeful. Amir cleared his throat. "Ami, something happened." My fingers tightened around each other. What happened? He didn't answer immediately. He looked at his siblings as if asking for strength. Then he finally spoke. "Ami, we lost everything." His words floated in the air like dust, slowly settling into my heart. "Everything?" I whispered. "Yes." Faraz replied, "Work, money, home, everything." Amir added, "We thought we were strong. We thought we didn't need anyone. We thought we could handle life on our own, but life proved us wrong." Sana wiped fresh tears. "Ami, we were proud, too proud, and that pride destroyed us." I stared at them quietly, not in anger, not in satisfaction, but in sadness, because pain is pain, whether it's mine or theirs. After a moment, I stood up slowly and walked to the kitchen. Their eyes followed me, confused and uncertain. I placed 3 glasses on a tray and filled them with water. My hands trembled slightly, but my heart felt steady. A mother becomes strongest when her children fall apart. I brought the tray to them and smiled. "Drink," I said gently. "You cannot talk about pain with a dry throat." They took the glasses with shaky hands. "Ami, after all we did, you still treat us with love." I placed my hand on his head. "Beta, a mother's love does not have an off switch." His eyes filled with tears. As they drank, I sat back down and asked softly, "Tell me everything. From the beginning, I am your mother. I will listen." They looked at one another and nodded slowly. Amir inhaled deeply and began. And as he spoke, I realized something. My children had not just come home. They had come back into my life, into my heart, into the place they had once left behind. And I was ready to listen, ready to hold their pain, ready to forgive. Because a mother never truly stops waiting for this moment.
Amir took a long breath before he began speaking. It was the kind of breath people take when they are carrying too much inside. Too much pain, too much regret, too many memories that hurt to remember. He placed his glass on the table with slightly trembling fingers. "Ami, everything started falling apart after Abba's first death anniversary," he said quietly. I nodded slowly, listening with all my heart. That year had been hard for everyone. We had lost a father, a husband, a protector, a man whose presence held our home together like strong walls. When he left this world, the walls stayed standing, but inside, everything cracked. "We all thought we were fine," Amir continued. "We thought we could handle everything. But we didn't talk to each other. We didn't check on one another. We started drifting, and we let it happen." Faraz leaned back, staring at the floor. "I was the first one to pull away," he admitted. "After Abba died, I felt angry all the time. I didn't know how to say that I missed him, so I just stopped talking. With everyone." Sana added softly, "Ami, we all changed in different ways, but none of us noticed the others hurting." I sat still, letting their words settle inside me. My heart felt heavy, yet I knew these truths needed to be spoken. Amir continued, "I got busy with work. I kept telling myself I was doing it for the family. But in reality, I was running away from home, from responsibilities, from my own emotions." He rubbed his forehead with his palm, exhausted. "It started with long working hours, then traveling, then shifting to another city. I never realized how far I was going until I looked back one day and saw nothing familiar." Faraz looked at him. "At least you had work," he said quietly. "I lost mine. And when I did, I didn't tell anyone. I felt ashamed. I thought everyone would say I wasn't responsible, so I pretended everything was fine." He swallowed hard. "But it wasn't. It got worse. Bills piled up, rent increased, and I kept sinking deeper. I needed help, but I didn't ask for it." I looked at him with soft eyes. "Beta, why didn't you come to me?" He shrugged weakly. "I didn't want to disappoint you." Those words broke something inside me, because I had never asked them to be perfect, only to be honest. Sana's voice was the softest. "Ami, I made mistakes too. I chose friends who didn't wish me well. I trusted people who only stayed with me when they needed something. I drifted away from the family because I thought I knew everything. But when trouble came, no one stood with me." Her eyes filled with tears and she wiped them quickly. "I should have come home, but I felt guilty. And the more time passed, the harder it became." The room felt heavy with their confessions.
Each sentence was like a stone being removed from a heart carrying too much weight. After a pause, Amir continued, "But Ummi, all these problems were small compared to what came later." My breath slowed. What happened? Amir looked at Faraz. Faraz looked at Sana. Sana looked at the ground. Then Amir finally said it. There was a man, a business partner, who tricked us. My heart tightened. Tricked you? How? He offered a partnership. We invested money, a lot of money. Faraz put in his savings, I borrowed from friends, Sana used her small business funds. We trusted him. Faraz's jaw clenched. But it was all a lie. Sana whispered, "We were greedy, Ummi. We thought this was our chance to stand on our feet, our chance to forget the past and become successful." Amir nodded slowly. "We thought if we earned well, we could fix everything. We could make you proud again. We could build a new home, a better life." I closed my eyes for a moment. My children, always trying to stand tall, always trying to hide their wounds, always trying to prove something. "And then?" I asked softly. Amir sighed, and then he ran away with everything. Silence. Long, deep, heavy silence. "He disappeared," Faraz said. "One morning his phone was off, his shop was empty, his office was closed. All the money, gone." Sana shook her head, tears falling. "We went to the police. They told us he had cheated many families. They said it would take months to investigate, months we didn't have." Amir continued, "We lost our jobs, our savings, our home. We were drowning." I slowly reached out and touched Amir's hand. It was cold. "Beta, why didn't you come sooner?" He exhaled deeply, shoulders dropping. "Because we were scared, Ummi. Scared of facing you after so many years. Scared of seeing disappointment in your eyes. Scared that you would close the door on us." I shook my head gently. "Never. Not even once." Faraz finally lifted his eyes and looked at me. "Ummi, we know that now, but at that time, we felt helpless. We felt lost." Sana added, "Ummi, we kept waiting for one of us to say, 'Let's go home,' but no one had the courage until something happened." I leaned forward slightly. "What happened?" Sana hesitated for a moment and then spoke. "Amir got sick." My heart stopped. Sana continued, "He fainted at work. He collapsed. They took him to the hospital. The doctor said it was stress, weakness, and anxiety. He had been hiding his problems too long." Amir looked down, ashamed. "It wasn't serious, Ummi. It was serious enough," Faraz said. "Serious enough for us to realize how far we had gone, how lost we were, how wrong our priorities had become." Sana nodded. "We looked at each other that day, and we knew we couldn't continue like this. We needed family. We needed home. We needed you." Amir's voice cracked. "I didn't know if you would forgive us, Ummi, after all these years, after all the silence, after all the mistakes." I took his hand again, tightly this time. "Beta, mothers don't keep score." Amir let out a shaky breath. Faraz wiped his eyes secretly. Sana held her dupatta to her face, unable to hide her tears. "And then," Faraz said quietly, "yesterday morning we packed our bags, whatever little we had left, and we came here." Sana added, "We didn't know what you would say, but we knew we had to try." I looked at them with a full heart. My children, my lost children, my returned children. They had broken, they had fallen, they had lost everything, but they had come home. After a long silence, I finally spoke. "Beta, life tests all of us, sometimes gently, sometimes harshly. But the fact that you came home means you have passed the most important test." Amir looked up. "What test, Ummi?" I said, "The test of the heart. When you choose family, you choose healing." Amir swallowed hard. Faraz closed his eyes secretly. Sana pressed her hand to her chest, unable to hide her tears. I continued, "You made mistakes, but mistakes don't erase love. They only remind us how much it matters." Amir wiped his face. "Ummi, we want to make things right." "You will," I said gently, "but first, rest. Your hearts and minds are tired." Faraz nodded slowly. "It's been a long journey, Ummi. More than you know." Sana looked around the house. "It feels like home, even after all these years." I smiled softly. "It was always your home. You just forgot the way." Their eyes softened, their shoulders relaxed, their hearts opened. The rising conflict inside them, the guilt, the fear, the regret, the losses, all finally had a place to land. Inside me. And as they sat there, speaking softly to one another, I realized this was the beginning of something new. Not perfect, not easy, but new. A chance to rebuild, a chance to heal, a chance to be a family again. And I was ready, more ready than ever.
The house was quieter that evening, but it was no longer the painful silence I had lived with for years. It was a different silence, a shared silence, a silence filled with unspoken apologies, quiet understanding, and the warmth of reunion. I made tea for all of us, the same way I always used to. A little extra sugar for Amir, half sugar for Faraz, no sugar for Sana. I still remembered everything. When I placed the cups on the table, they all froze for a moment. Amir whispered, "You still remember our choices?" I smiled. A mother doesn't forget her children, not even their smallest likes. They each held their tea, looking at it the same way a thirsty traveler looks at water after a long journey, not because it was tea, but because it was home. We sat down together, and for a few minutes we just breathed in the moment. But then a shift happened. Amir placed his cup down and looked at me with a seriousness I had not seen in years. "Ami, we didn't just lose our money, we lost ourselves." I nodded gently. Pain does that. Faraz Abid, "We didn't take care of you, and now we don't even know if we deserve to stay here." That sentence hit me like a cold wind. "Deserve?" I repeated softly. "You think love is something you deserve only when you are perfect?" They stayed quiet. "Beta, love is not a reward. It is a bond." Amir swallowed. "But Ammi, we came to you with nothing. You came to me with everything. Your honesty, your tears, your courage. That is more than enough." A strange mix of relief and guilt crossed their faces. Then Sana spoke, voice trembling. "Ammi, do you know what hurt us the most?" I shook my head gently. She breathed deeply. "It wasn't losing the money. It wasn't losing the house. It was knowing that after losing everything, we had nowhere to go." Amir's voice cracked. "And we did that to ourselves." I looked at them, their tired faces, their worried eyes, their hopeful hearts. And I realized something. They hadn't just come back for shelter. They had come back because life had brought them to a place where pride breaks, ego fades, and the heart learns humility. They had come back for healing. I reached out, placing my hand on Sana's. "You came home. That means you still had somewhere to go." Sana nodded slowly, wiping her tears. For a moment, the room felt warm again. But the turning point, the moment that would change all of us, came unexpectedly. It happened when Amir stood up and walked toward the shelf near the window. He picked up an old frame, a photograph, a picture of the 5 of us together taken on their father's last birthday. The cake was crooked, the decorations were simple,
But our smiles, they were real. Amir held the frame carefully, like it was something fragile, sacred. He whispered, "I haven't seen this picture in years." Faraz walked closer. Sana followed. They looked at it like they were looking at a doorway into a life they had lost. I watched them quietly from behind. Their shoulders were touching, their heads leaned in close, the way siblings do when they forget their differences. Amir's voice trembled. "We were happy." Faraz nodded. "Very happy." Sana placed her fingers on the image. "Ami, did you keep this in the same place all these years?" "Yes," I replied softly. "I kept everything in the same place." Amir turned toward me. "Why?" "So that when you came home, nothing would feel unfamiliar." Sana stared at me with disbelief. "Ammi, you saved everything?" I nodded gently, because I knew one day you would return. Amir shook his head, overwhelmed. "You believed that after so many years of silence?" "I did," I said softly. "A mother can get tired, but she never stops believing." They were silent, deeply silent. Then something happened. Ami walked toward me with slow steps. He knelt down beside my chair, his head lowered. "Ami," he whispered, voice breaking, "forgive us." Faraz didn't wait. He came forward and knelt beside his brother. "I hurt you the most. I pushed you away," he said, tears in his eyes. Sana joined them, holding my knees gently. "Ami, please forgive us." In that moment, my 3 children, kneeling before me, crying quietly, asking for forgiveness, I felt something inside me shatter into 1,000 pieces. Not from pain, but from love that had been waiting too long. I placed both hands on their heads. My voice trembled, but it was steady. "Beta, I forgave you long ago. The day you walked out, I forgave you. The day you forgot me, I forgave you. The day you remembered me, I forgave you again." They cried harder. Their body shook with years of buried guilt. I continued, "I did not wait for your apology to forgive you. A mother's forgiveness is not a decision. It is her nature." Amir buried his face in my lap. Faraz held my hands tightly. Sana wrapped around me and sobbed like a child. And as I held them, my grown children, who suddenly felt like my babies again, I whispered a small dua for all of us. A prayer for healing, for unity, for love. Minutes passed, maybe more. Time didn't matter anymore. When they finally stood up, their faces were wet, but their eyes looked lighter. Amir inhaled deeply. "Ami, we want to start over with you," Faraz added. "We want to take care of this home, of you, of each other." Sana nodded. "And we want to rebuild everything we lost together." I smiled through my tears. "Then you must do it slowly, gently. Life is not a race." They nodded. I stood up, holding the arm of the chair for support. "Come," I said. "There is something I want to show you." They followed me down the hallway to the small storage room. Inside, there were old boxes, neatly labeled. Books, toys, school certificates, letters, drawings, memories. I opened one box. Inside were small things they had given me when they were children: a paper flower, an old birthday card, a hand-drawn family sketch. Sana gasped. "You kept these?" "Of course," I said softly. "Every mother keeps her children's memories, even the ones they forget." Faraz touched an old toy car he had broken long ago. Amir held the first medal he ever won. Sana found a letter she wrote to me when she was 7. Their faces softened, their hearts softened. And then, the moment that changed everything happened. Amir turned toward me suddenly. "Ammi, can we come back home permanently?" My heart stopped. "Here? With me?" He nodded. "Yes, all of us, together." Faraz added, "We want to rebuild this house, repair it, paint it, fix everything." Sana held my arm gently. And make it alive again. I stared at them, my children, standing there with hope, with sincerity, with longing, with humility. It was the moment I had waited for without daring to expect it. Ammi, Amir whispered, will you let us come home? I felt my eyes fill with tears. I placed my hand on his cheek. You didn't leave enough for me to need permission for your return. They all smiled softly, a smile full of relief and new beginnings. But the turning point wasn't just emotional. It was deeper. Because in that moment, I realized they hadn't just come home out of need. They had come home out of love. Not because they lost their world, but because they wanted to rebuild it with me. And for the first time in many years, I felt young again. I felt whole. I felt like a mother, not forgotten, not abandoned, but needed, loved. And that was the true turning point.
I think the moment I truly understood that my children were slipping away from me was a very small moment. Not dramatic, not loud, not painful on the outside. It was an evening like any other. I had made tea for myself. I remember the cup because it had tiny blue flowers on it, one of the few things left from my old life. I sat near the window, watching the lights of the street flicker on, and suddenly the thought came to me. I don't know what my son ate today. It was such a simple thought, but it felt like someone quietly closed a door inside my heart. When children are small, mothers know everything. What they like, what they dislike, when they are tired, when they are hungry. Even the silence of a child speaks to a mother. But now, I knew nothing. I didn't know if he was happy. I didn't know if he was eating well. I didn't know if he laughed today or cried. And it hurt. Not because he didn't tell me, but because I never wanted him to feel obligated to. I just missed being someone's first thought, someone's comfort, someone's safe place. The phone call that changed something small, but everything. One evening, after many weeks, I finally gathered courage and called my son. When he picked up, his voice was tired. Hello? Ma? Is everything okay? I smiled, even though he could not see me. Yes, Beta. Everything is fine. I just wanted to hear your voice. There was a pause. A long one. Oh, I was about to sleep. Can we talk tomorrow? My heart sank a little. Not because he didn't want to talk, but because he didn't even ask how I was. Yes, Beta, of course, I said softly. He didn't notice the tremble in my voice. He didn't ask why I sounded that way. He didn't ask if I needed anything. He simply said, "Good night, Ma," and hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand for a long time. The screen had already gone dark, but I kept staring at it. I whispered to myself, "Good night, Beta. I miss you." The world outside felt big. The world inside felt empty. Days passed. I fell into a routine that looked normal from the outside. Wake up, pray, clean a little, cook something simple, sit, think, remember, sleep. People often say loneliness is loud, but mine wasn't. Mine was quiet. Quiet like a room with closed curtains. Quiet like a breath held too long. Sometimes I put my earphones in and listen to recordings of my grandson's laughter that my daughter used to send me months ago. I would close my eyes and imagine holding him, his tiny hands wrapping around my finger, the soft smell of baby powder, the way he would smile when he saw me. But those memories felt like another lifetime. Then one day, a small knock broke the silence. It was late afternoon. The sun was soft, not harsh, not warm, just gentle. A knock came at my door.
I opened it, expecting a neighbor or a delivery boy. But it was my daughter. "Ma," she whispered. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. Before I could say anything, she wrapped her arms around me. She held me tightly, like she feared I might disappear. "What happened?" I asked, scared. She shook her head and cried against my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Ma. I should have come earlier. I should have called more. I didn't know you were living like this." Her words cracked something inside me. I held her face in my hands. "Beta, I never wanted to be a burden." "You were never a burden," she said immediately, almost angrily, as if she hated the word itself. "You were alone, Ma, and we didn't even notice." I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight. My eyes burned. She looked around my home, the quiet, the emptiness, the stillness, and then she said something that made my heart tremble. "Ma, I think my brother needs to talk to you." I looked down. "Beta, he has his own home, his own life. Maybe he doesn't need me the way I need him." She held my hand. "No, he needs you more than he knows." But I didn't know. A storm was coming. That night, after she left, I sat alone again, but this time something felt different. It felt like the air had shifted, like something was moving towards me. A conversation, a truth, a moment I had been avoiding for too long. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know what my son was thinking. I didn't know if my daughter-in-law felt. I didn't know if things would get better or worse. But I felt it. A storm was coming. A quiet storm, the kind that doesn't destroy buildings, only hearts. And I knew this was going to be the turning point of my life. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. The fan made a soft, slow sound. The curtains moved a little with the breeze. Nothing dramatic, and yet my heart felt uneasy. It was as if my soul already knew something important was about to happen. Something I could not stop. Something I had been silently walking toward for months. I turned to my side and closed my eyes, hoping sleep would come quickly. But it didn't. Instead, memories came, like a slow-moving film. My son's first day of school, his first fever, the night he cried because he lost a toy car, the day he held my hand tightly at the park, scared of a dog, the moment he told me he wanted to get married, the day he left home after the wedding. Every memory was warm. Every memory was soft. Every memory reminded me of a love that had never left my heart, even if the person had. I don't know when sleep finally came, but when I woke up, everything changed.
The rebuilding of a family that once fell apart. My son stayed for a long time that day, longer than any visit in the past few years. But this time, the silence between us wasn't painful. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't full of questions or wounds. It was gentle, like old memories resting quietly, like two hearts learning how to breathe again. We didn't rush into conversations. We didn't try to solve everything in one moment. We simply allowed the air around us to soften. He held his cup of tea with both hands and looked around the little room as if seeing it for the first time. "Ma," he said softly, "you used to decorate this place so beautifully. Why did you stop?" I smiled faintly. "When there is no one to look at the decorations, the walls begin to look tired." He lowered his eyes. "Ma, I'm sorry." "You don't have to say sorry, Beta," I whispered. You are here now. That's enough. We talked about small things after that. His job, his health, my garden, his favorite childhood dishes, the little things we had lost in the storms of time. Each word, each smile, felt like placing bricks in a broken wall, slowly building, slowly healing. But the biggest healing had not happened yet. The day he returned, again. 2 days later, he visited me once more. This time, he looked lighter, less burdened, as if the world was no longer pressing on his shoulders. "Ma," he said, standing at my doorway, "can we go for a walk?" I blinked in surprise. "A walk?" "Yes," he smiled faintly. "Just like old times." I hesitated for a moment. My legs weren't as strong as they used to be, but the warmth in his eyes made me feel 20 years younger. "Okay, son." He walked slowly beside me, matching his steps with mine, just like he did when he was 5. Sometimes I would slow down intentionally, and he would slow down too, patient and gentle. We talked about nothing and everything. "I miss this, Ma," he said quietly as we walked past an old mango tree. "So do I replied. There was no anger in his voice, no guilt in mine. We were simply two people rebuilding a bond that was never truly gone, just forgotten under the dust of life. When we returned home, he paused at the door. "Ma, I want to tell you something." "Yes, son?" I spoke to my wife. My breath caught for a moment. "What did you tell her?" "The truth," he said calmly, "that I love her, but I cannot abandon my mother, not emotionally, not physically, not in any way." I waited quietly. She was quiet for a long time. He continued, and then she started crying. "Crying?" I whispered, surprised. He nodded. "She said she didn't realize how much she was hurting you and me. She said she felt insecure. She thought you didn't like her. She thought you would take me away from her." I closed my eyes slowly. So many relationships break because of misunderstanding. Not because of hate, not because of cruelty, just small cracks that become deep wounds. "What did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her the truth," he replied, "that you have always wished her well, that you always prayed for her, that you never said a single bad word about her, ever." Tears blurred my vision. "Ma," he whispered, "she wants to apologize to you." I took a deep breath. "Beta, forgiveness is always open in a mother's heart." The day she came to see me, I was nervous, more nervous than I had been in years, because the next morning, my son brought his wife to my home. I stood at the doorway, hands slightly trembling. She stood behind him, head lowered, fingers twisting her dupatta. For a moment, no one spoke. And then, very slowly, she stepped forward. "Auntie," her voice cracked, I am sorry." My heart softened instantly. "I am sorry for hurting you. I am sorry for the distance. I am sorry for everything I misunderstood. I should have tried harder. I should have listened to you. I should have trusted you." Her words were not perfect. They were not dramatic. They were not beautifully arranged. But they were real. And real is always enough. I placed my hand gently on her head. Beta, every house has misunderstandings. Every relationship has fear. But love survives if we give it a chance. She broke into tears and hugged me. A soft, gentle hug, the kind a daughter gives. My son watched us quietly, eyes shining with relief. In that moment, the cracks began to close. A slow, gentle rebuilding. Life did not suddenly become perfect. We did not become the ideal family overnight, but slowly, day by day, week by week, things changed. My daughter-in-law began calling me every morning. Assalamu alaikum, auntie. Did you have breakfast? Sometimes we talked for 2 minutes, sometimes for 10, sometimes just to share a recipe or ask a small question. But each call was a stitch in a torn cloth. My son visited every Sunday, not rushed, not forced, simply present. One afternoon, he came with a box in his hands. "What is this?" I asked. He smiled. "Something for your home." Inside the box was a small wooden shelf painted in soft pastel colors. He placed it on the wall and arranged tiny flower pots on it. "Ma, your home needs some life." And he was right. Little by little, my home felt alive again. The silence became warmer. The air felt softer. The rooms didn't echo as much. Sometimes I would hear their laughter as they both fixed things around the house. Sometimes my daughter-in-law would sit beside me and ask about my childhood. Sometimes my son would bring fruits and say, "Ma, these reminded me of you." These small gestures, these tiny movements of love healed things faster than big apologies ever could. A quiet realization. One evening, after they left, I sat on my bed and looked at the wall where the shelf hung. The little pots, the colors, the fresh flowers, the sound of their laughter still lingering in the air. I placed my hand on my chest and whispered to myself, "This is what I waited for. Not gifts, not grand gestures, just them. Just my children, just their love." For the first time in so many years, I felt full, not lonely, not abandoned, not forgotten, just full. Full of love, full of warmth, full of peace. A visit that changed everything. A few weeks later, my son called again. "Ma, are you home today?" "Yes, son. Why?" "We want to visit. All of us." "All of us?" "Yes," he laughed softly. "Me, my wife, and your grandchildren." Ah, I felt tears rise instantly. I hadn't seen the children in almost a year. They had grown so much. New words, new stories, new faces, but the same innocent eyes. When they entered, they ran toward me. "Daddy, Daddy!" Two little arms circled my legs. A tiny head pressed against my stomach. I bet the day my children finally came back to me. Life changes quietly, sometimes in a single moment, sometimes in thousands of unnoticed steps, and sometimes in the softness of a door opening after years of silence. When I look back now, I realized something that took me a long time to understand. My children never stopped loving me. They only forgot how to show it. Life pushed them forward. Responsibilities pulled them in different directions. Their own fears, insecurities, and misunderstandings covered the love that was always there. But love, real love, never dies. It waits. It bends. It dims a little, but it does not disappear. And the day it returns, it feels as if the sun rises inside your chest. A new beginning after the storm. Now, when I wake up in the morning, my house doesn't feel as quiet as it used to. My phone rings with a gentle message. Good morning, Ma. Did you sleep well? Sometimes it's my son. Sometimes it's my daughter-in-law. Sometimes it's a little voice note from my grandchildren, laughing about something small and silly. My weekends are no longer empty. There are footsteps in my hallway. There is laughter in my kitchen. There are tiny shoes lying near my door. There is warmth on my dining table. And in the middle of all this, there is me. Not lonely, not forgotten, not waiting. Just living, just loving, just being a mother again. A mother whose children finally came back to her. What I learned in the silence. I learned something important through all these years of distance and waiting. Sometimes children don't understand a mother's heart until life teaches them. Sometimes they have to fall. Sometimes they have to hurt. Sometimes they have to see loneliness in someone else before they see their own mistakes. But mothers, we love quietly. We forgive quickly. We wait patiently. Because motherhood is not a contract. It is a prayer, a lifelong prayer. And prayers? They always return home. The last scene of my story. Yesterday evening, something happened that I will remember forever. I was sitting on my porch as the sun was setting. The sky was soft orange. The air smelled of earth and jasmine. My son sat beside me. My daughter-in-law made tea in my kitchen. My grandchildren played on the floor near my feet. My son looked at me and said, "Ma, thank you for not giving up on us." I smiled. "Beta, mothers don't give up. We just wait for the right moment." He nodded, eyes full of understanding. And then very slowly, he leaned his head on my shoulder, just like he used to when he was a little boy. In that quiet moment, I felt everything fall into place. The years of distance, the tears I cried alone, the painful memories, the empty evenings, the silent mornings. Everything melted away. Because my children were here, beside me, with me, loving me again. And that was enough. More than enough. My final words to you. If you are listening to my story today, I want to leave you with this. Family ties might stretch. They might weaken. They might even break for a while. But love, true love, always finds a way back. Sometimes late. Sometimes slowly. Sometimes after mistakes. But it returns. And when it does, open your door. Open your heart. Let the warmth come back in. Because forgiveness does not make you weak. It makes you whole. And love?
Love is the only thing in this world that grows stronger every time we give it away. This is the day my children finally came back to me. A day I waited for. A day I prayed for. A day that reminded me that no matter how dark life becomes, love will always find its way home.